Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So, PS5 scalpers have been all the rage lately. Everybody's covering them. Just want you to know I did it first. I'm just joking. Anyways, yeah, since the PS5 launch, things have been amazingly outrageous. Truly, truly outrageous. Gem style. You guys remember that cartoon? Things have been impossible to get by, and a lot of it has been blamed on by scalpers using their bots and their software and their techniques, their ninja techniques. So I found an interesting article. This is from PocketLint.com. Never heard of the site, but apparently they talked to a PS5 scalper and he revealed some of his tricks of the trade. So let's go ahead and read this interesting read. Before we get to this point though, if you haven't subscribed yet, why don't you click the red subscription button down below and let's get started on this. So it says, we talked to a PS5 scalper about how they got their consoles. And it goes, it hasn't exactly flown under the radar here in the UK that PS5's launch was absolutely beset by bots and resellers buying up stock and turning them around for profit later. We've seen stories of reselling groups with thousands of consoles, and there are plenty of angry customers to go around. So, yeah, just yesterday actually we talked where a scalper group in the UK claimed that they had no regrets, that they had over 3,500 PlayStation 5s, and it puts food on the table, and that they're basically a membership that you pay like $30 to, and they give you access to features that enable you to be able to scalp and resell the stuff for higher prices. It was a freaking mess. It's disgusting. I'm just saying, it's disgusting. But going on, it says we talked to one such Birmingham-based reseller this week, whose name we've changed to Jack, to get a sense for how people get into such a technically legal but terms of service shredding market, how high the barrier to entry is, and what launch was like on the other side of the coin. So, this is going to be an interesting read here, guys, seeing it from a scalper's perspective. Although I do not defend it, it'll be interesting to read. He says his takeaways, unsurprisingly, were relatively scathing in the direction of retailers, which his community of resellers gathered on a Discord group found largely unprepared for the easily predicted demand they were hit with at launch. So, getting into the game. It's a community that Jack discovered, as many do, after getting into the sneaker market. Many of the bots that nabbed Xboxes and PS5s in recent weeks are actually retooled sneaker scripts. So I'm always hearing sneakerheads deal with this a lot. That sneakerhead community deals with scalpers and basically scumbags coming out and taking advantage of all these huge drops in the sneaker community. Well, now they got into the console market. So it says, just like others getting more public press, his group also secured what's got to be thousands of consoles between pre-order and launch units. Just sickening. After getting 4 consoles himself when pre-orders went live, each through manual means, Jack said, manual means my ass. You used a bot. Jack said about getting ready for launch day stock. That meant in practice buying up the use of bots and proxies through connections on Discord and choosing where they target com launch. So bots and proxies is not manual. Like, how do you say that you did it manual and then you're buying bots? If that sounds hyper technical, he says, it's one of those things where once you get into it, it becomes very clear. The Discord community helps newbies set stuff up to avoid situations where someone wastes a load of money on proxies and badmouths the process. If people make money without too much hassle, more people will buy bots, and the developers who act as the beating heart of the reseller communities will continue making more and more money themselves. So he's condoning the use of bots. Sweet. Stand-up guy. Most communities can be found carefully watching Twitter, he says. You kind of have to gamble a bit on joining a group and finding one on Twitter, but I think Twitter always has been and always will be one of the best resources for releases like this because you've got your chronological timeline. If you're let in, the simplest step is to simply pay another reseller to run a bot for you for a fee around £50. So yeah, you basically pay a bot, a reseller to use a bot. You'll have bought a far harder chance of getting a console than your average consumer, with a risk of detection and cancellation, and go with it. So he's admitted there's a risk of cancellation and detection for this. So you're manually, the only thing manual about this is that you're paying somebody to run a bot for you. bullshit. So he says, from there, things have a steeper learning curve, but the picture Jack paints still summons some dismay. This isn't something that's hard to get into if you're relatively comfortable using computers and browsing the web, which is hardly the highest bar to clear. That said, there's still an undeniable risk to be taken at some point when card details need to be handed over and addresses and mates' addresses detailed. So I guess you still have to give the reseller your info. I wouldn't trust somebody that's running a bot with my credit card info straight up. They're going to fuck you over eventually. These risks don't disappear when you got a console either. Resellers regularly have their time wasted by frustrated non-buyers. Some that's easy to see the satisfaction in, which, yeah, do not buy. Let these guys sit on these consoles. Which can be harmless, but can make them feel vulnerable when it's happened. In turn, he's heard about a reseller who's apparently stabbed during a handover this week, showing that more unacceptable levels of anger are bubbling away at scalpers. That doesn't mean there's much remorse to be found on their side. Jack clearly doesn't feel there's anything morally wrong with buying up stock like this. If it's anyone's fault, it's the stores for the lack of measure to stop them. So, he's one of those no regrets people. He feels, it's the retailer's fault. So, target the weaklings. In Jack's case, leading up to launch, John Lewis seemed a safe bet to have lower protection against bots, given its weaker connection to the gaming scene and assumed lack of preparedness. Finding only one bot that was able to target the site made him more sure that it was a good choice. That suspicion was borne out by 12 completed orders on launch date, 4 which were later canceled. That's 8 consoles secured, plus the 4 from pre-orders, a total up to 12. So he got 12 from John Lewis. 4 of them were canceled on launch date, but he got 12 total from pre-orders and launch date. Other sites like Gaming Curries use queuing systems that stymied more, but not all. Bots some had what Jack called a queue skip, which is an advantage as it sounds, while Tesco seemingly moved its PS5 launch onto a third-party site to avoid crashing any of its other services. That tactic drew admiration from Jack and his ilk, but normal buyers would probably point out that it didn't make it any easier to buy a console without cutting the line. So one of the biggest challenges, it turns out, isn't running enough bots to have a chance at getting playing consoles, but in having enough cards and addresses to complete orders. So yeah, having enough fake credit card numbers and addresses to be a scumbag. Yeah, that's good. Jack name checks fintech darlings like Revolt and Monzo to explain how he could have had 12 virtual cards ready to go, but delivery addresses generally need borrowing from friends and family. So you have to borrow friends and family's physical addresses, guys, to be a scammer. So it'll get worse before it gets better, with consoles going for between £800 and £850 at the moment. That's a large enough profit as it stands right now. Most people would agree. Sadly, though, Jack's views that things aren't going to get any cheaper, with more stock waves before Christmas looking likely to disappear just as quickly as people get closer to the holiday. Demand is going to go up. And Jack is one of the view that this is weird. Jack is of the view that £1,000 will be the minimum going rate in a couple days before Christmas itself. So he's saying it's going to be a lot more in demand. Stuff's going to become higher as we get into Christmas. And he's fine. To him, this is all business, guys. It's all business. So, yeah. Reselling discords out there. Scumbag. I'm sure some of you guys that are watching this are scumbags. You guys aren't providing a service. No matter what you look at. No matter what you think. Total scum. Very interesting article, though. What are your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below? Let me know. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on the next one.